Hey, trendsetters, how y'all doing? Good night, good night, good night to all. I'm here with the phenomenal, dynamic Simone Muchette of Resilient Young Minds. We're going to have this social work conversation. We're going to have an impactful conversation. But before we jump in, because we had already started, so before we jump in, you know how it is when you get two social workers together. We want to talk. We want to talk and, chit chat about, what's going on in our communities and how we can make it better and what we recognize as some of the things that are socially impacting our community. So before we get into that conversation, we only got we only got an hour. So before we get into that conversation, let's really talk about who Simone Muchette is and what is Resilient Young Minds, and talk to us about who you are and what you're doing out here in the community that makes you a superstar trendsetter.
All right, thank you, Miss Heidi. Thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm Simone Muchette. I am a social worker. I like to call myself the ultimate social worker, as I utilize my social work skills in different places. I utilize them at work as a school social worker. I utilize them running Resilient Young Minds, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, where we aim to fight trauma with resilience to access healing. And then I do that on my podcast. And I just find myself just spreading this message of mental health awareness and building emotional resiliency, as just something that we need right now, given that we are coming back from a very sensitive time for everyone. And I think that the impact, we saw a lot of the physical first, and
Mhm.
we're starting to see the residual mental and emotional impact that it's having, not just on us adults, but also on the children. And children are my bread and butter. I love working with kids. Some people call me the kid whisperer. Some think it's a gift. I do believe it's a gift to a certain extent, but I do have a way of understanding children just by listening, and validating their experience and putting myself in their shoes, whether it's 6, 7, 8, or 9 years old, because a problem to a child that seems so big can look like the size of a penny to an adult. And that lack of validation to a young person could break their spirit. And so what I really try to do is bridge the gap between generations, and get parents and their kids in the same space and help them communicate in a way where their message and their intentions could be heard, as opposed to the avenue, vehicle, or word choice that at times distracts us from
Mhm.
hearing a young person who is trying to get their voice heard and share what they're going through. I hope that sums it up. Oh, and I'm an author. I always leave that out. um,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, you know,
No, I didn't know you left it out for me too.
I always leave that out. And you know, it's so funny. Writing has always been a coping skill for me because I was a young person that struggled with communicating my feelings as a kid. So I would do that through writing. And so I have a book called Diary of the First Year Teacher that was just my journal through my first couple years teaching in New York City and what that experience was like. And I felt like teachers needed to know what they don't teach you in classrooms, what they don't prepare you for, because it's more of that than it actually is what's in those books. And so there were some things that I felt like probably would never be said out loud, or be presented in a grand scope. So that was the inspiration behind that book. And then the second book is Cultivating a Resilient Mind, and that's a workbook, and it's really based off of our resilience camps that we hold to support youth and families to identify their trauma, release it so that they can access healing. And so the activities that we do, our primary activities, are in that workbook with instructions on how to do it and how to run it. And I have an accompanying online course for parents and educators right now who are seeking to build that capacity for social and emotional intelligence so that they can be able to communicate with the young people in a way that they can reach them. So those are the things, the published things that are there.
Can you let us know the name of the books again? I know you said Diary of something. I wasn't able to catch it, sorry.
Of a first year teacher.
Okay. And Cultivating a Resilient Mind.
Yes. In a post-pandemic society.
Wow. And then you have, of course, where can the viewers obtain this information? Your books and
Follow us on Rhyme RYM_INC on Instagram. That's where you get all the latest news.
okay.
Us. You'll see our some of our links. You can email us at resilientyoungminds@gmail.com. And also you can follow me at poetic_J21. That's my main page, and my link tree is there, and you can access everything that I'm saying on that link tree, the book, the online course, all that jazz.
Okay. So let's get into this mental health conversation. Talk to us about, make our audience aware of how serious, statistically, probably most likely, that mental health is affecting our community, meaning Black and Brown communities. What are the numbers? Talk to us about suicide. Talk to us about, mental health crisis. Even talk to us about PTSDs that we've experienced through gun violence and other things. Talk to us. Let's have this conversation. Let's peel this back. One of the things that you and I are both passionate about is how education plays a role in mental health and healthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And the schools having lack of funding play a large role in what we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially not being able to address coming out of COVID appropriately, as far as distress.
Mm-hmm.
And let's have that conversation. What are the numbers, or do you have any numbers that you can share with us now?
Well, I don't have exact numbers in front of me, but generally overall, the statistics that have been going around as we talk about the mental health epidemic, we know that suicide is the second leading cause of death in young people ages 15 to 24. That's one stat. We know that men are 3 times, sometimes 4 times more likely to commit a suicide than women. We know that women are more likely to attempt a suicide than we know men
Mhm.
and women both struggle with depression and anxiety at very similar rates. However, men will more likely resort to negative coping skills like substance abuse and sex, other things to deal with it, where males would more likely seek help because there's safety and acceptance in women sitting around talking about their feelings, but there's no safety, acceptance for men to sit around and talk about their feelings. So that's one aspect. As far as suicide is related, depression and anxiety are the most common mental health disorders that I don't even know if it's more a mental health disorder anymore than just phases or that we experience when we're under stress or under duress or under
Mhm. Mhm.
pressure, because so prominent now. It's becoming normalized language anyway. Oh, I'm feeling depressed. Oh, I'm feeling.
Yes. Yes.
5-year-olds are saying it now.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Normalize that. It's just, I think, like new added emotions. I think even Inside Out, they added like depression and anxiety as emotions now, not even and I think that adding it as emotions will like lessen the diagnoses part, because we're saying that we all have moments in our life where we feel this way, where we can be in crisis due to a situation, a change, a transition. And our body, our mind, all of that has to readjust and calibrate to something new, which is what children go through all the time at the elementary level, because they're doing life for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to react and behave in ways that we don't even understand, because we're experiencing something new for the first time. And we don't often give each other enough grace and acceptance. And I think that's just what mental health is. It's just like any other health. It's like your physical health. It's something that exists, is present. And honestly, it's most important, because your mental health can impact your physical health at some points, right?
Yeah.
It really,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
very powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to spend more time mastering our own mind. We spend way too much time worrying about other people and other things, and less time reflecting and stopping. And that's what Ron does. Like, I've learned over the 8 years now that we do not take time to just reflect about ourselves or our day. So the camp allows you to really set aside sacred, intentional time to focus on me, my thoughts, what I think, what I feel, what I want, what I need. We don't really do that. We're just go, 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 moving, moving, moving.
Right.
And so that's what mental health is, really trying to get the community, society to normalize taking those moments, and it's okay. And right now we're in a battle, because one, we're battling our old routines, our old mindsets, and we are also battling survival, right? If I have to go to work, but mentally I'm just not there, what is at stake? I could go to work mentally off, have a horrific day, but I still got paid. Or take that day, recoup, take what I need, and go back to work, do amazing, and not need another day for another 4 or 5 months. But our
I
society
mean,
pressure is not, it's not set up that way. We that's the battle. Some of us that have had mental breakdowns, we're fighting. But others that haven't had it or haven't acknowledged their own moments are putting that pressure. If I could do it, you could do it. Well, I am not you.
right. Right, right, right. And that's very important, because I think that some of that is carried down to our kids. You understand what I'm saying? And it is a certain expectation of performance that is passed down. And it's like you're saying, if I'm now navigating through things and I don't have an experience or knowledge base, you know how they, oftentimes, I'm sorry, oftentimes I hear people say common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And my argument is, to anyone who knows me, common sense is not so common, because if it's not a familiarity,
Mm-hmm.
then how can it be common? Common itself, the word describes some type of familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That's how come it becomes common. It becomes common because it's repetitious. So it's common sense. It's sense then. But what if you didn't have the knowledge? Then it's not common.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to really take it back a step, that it's patterns that
Mm-hmm.
allows us to understand certain things. But if this is new, fresh out of the box, and that's not for kids alone, that's even for adults. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? You touched on something earlier where people have to identify with their feelings. You
Mm-hmm.
know, trauma makes people passive in a way that they don't even recognize their own feelings, or
Exactly.
they misunderstand what they're feeling. So
Right.
how can, people communicate if they don't even understand what they're feeling? And how can people reciprocate if they don't even understand that it and or acknowledge that it is an actual feeling? You understand what I'm saying?
I
So
got, I'm gonna take you even deeper to that point. It's like, because I go through this type of scenario on a regular basis. It's like that moment when you were 5 or 6, maybe 4, maybe 7, where you moved, someone passed away, maybe your parents got a divorce, something changed, and you said to your parents, I feel X, I feel sad, I feel depressed. Now they say, I feel anxious, I feel depressed. And the parent might say, be quiet. You don't know nothing about depression. Be quiet. You don't know nothing about stress. Be quiet. You don't know nothing about that. Go to your room. That's the moment where the false narrative came to be, that my feelings don't matter or my voice doesn't matter. So now when I'm in another situation, because that's my parent, that's my secure attachment. So now when another person does it, it's familiar to me. So it's like, oh, okay, this is a thing. Like when I say how I feel, maybe it was at school, the second person, because that's
right.
where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, okay, I'm not, like today at work, my heart broke. I took a boys group, and one of the boys was like, because it's, at risk. So they already know, they could see each other what this group is. And one boy is like, he says, I'm a bad kid. I said, what? What you mean you a bad kid? Where did you get that from? He's like, yeah, I'm a bad kid because I'm sneaky and I don't listen and I'll follow directions. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, an adult was feeding the 7-year-old this information, because at 7, how did you come to this whole assessment of yourself? And he was like, I don't want to be like this. I'm a bad kid, like stress.
Wow.
And I think about these moments, and I think about how many of us had moments like that, but we didn't even have an adult to express it that way because the space wasn't even provided. And that's where that trauma starts. That's traumatic in and of itself, because you ripped me of my voice and that association to help me understand and process my feelings.
I think that it's so important that you brought that up because certain things are a repetitious pattern, like we were saying before. And this is how come I can't even, as an adult, identify with these feelings that you're having, and by the time you become an adult, you're going such, in our Black communities, unfortunately, we have so much adversity and we have so much trauma that it just compiles like that little thing. You talking about that? Well, you wait. You understand what I'm saying?
It's what you said. So we're not even talking about the other things that we know for a fact can be bad,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
About the opportunities I could have had to share that trauma
Yes.
with you, parents.
Right.
You could have
Right.
been, and
Right.
but that was gone because you had to deal with the trauma
Absolutely.
that happened.
Absolutely. 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 So this is what I'm saying. Yeah. So this is exactly what I'm saying. Another thing that you brought up is traumas, people moving. And you and I talked about the migration, immigration, and that having, really, really effective on people. They have PTSD, they have attachment anxieties, they have so many different things from making the trip to America and what it entailed. You know, it had to be psychological even before I made the decision. And now, the journey
Mhm.
and what that meant. In our Black communities, it's such a wide disparate of everything. You know, some people had to leave their children, their families. Some people had to leave everything and come here into unknowing.
Mhm.
You know, some people did were fortunate enough to bring them, but what that journey entailed was something incredible. So they're leaving back trauma, to endure trauma along the way. And now they're here. You know, it's a whole system of things. And, you know, it's really incredible where we are as a community, you know, and the reason why things are this way. You know, I often talk even with you about, you know, people being explosive. And one of the reasons why we are, you know, as we said before, is because where's the outlet for all of this?
Mhm.
Where's the outlet for all of this? If communities have um, not been served properly, I don't want to say that they what's the cliche that they like to say that the impoverished neighborhoods. No, there's money going into these neighborhoods, but you know what's going on is beyond me because the education system is so focused on everything else academically and not really providing the space for people to even understand or acknowledge that it's a place. You know, they're so focused on the failing, they're so focused on this, but what's the thing coming on? You're not getting it, kid. You know, I have heard people, you're not getting it, you don't understand. But if my mind is cluttered with other things, how can I process learning?
Mhm.
You
I'm
know,
levels.
you create a space.
Yeah.
Rise is amazing. And that's why we have you on. I mean, I know you touched on it that you take the kids out. This young lady takes the kids to on a excavation. They go out into the woods and they really, really heal. It's a week that they go out there and they address themselves. It's just like you said, you know, it's their issue. It's what's going on to them. You validate them, you comfort them, you nurture them. And it's not only mental health, you give a financial training as well, where the teens get to learn how to manage your money. And I think that that's, you know, you're doing an extraordinary job. This is so important for us. You know, I know that I have some statistics in front of me, you know, like they say 60% of gun deaths are suicide, 60%.
And
So
I
listen
met.
to the number, listen to the crazy number.
Mhm.
39,778 gun-related deaths in the US as of 2020. Now we in 2024. That number has doubled since then.
Mhm.
And 60% of that number are deaths due to suicide. There's a crisis that's not being spoken about. If you're telling me that there's 3 and 4 year olds walking around saying that I've got anxieties and I'm feeling depressed and I'm this, that, and the other, then this type of thing is being normalized. And it's really not okay. It's not okay that it's not being addressed the right way, that the system really has it like passive. You
Mhm.
know, it's normalized behavior. You're seeing people walking around, pushing people into trains. They
Mhm.
had a young lady who got her neck slashed. You know, people are getting stabbed every which way you go. These type of behaviors are not normal. They're not normal. You got
Mhm.
old ladies shaking canes. This is, you know, Everybody is in such intent, in such, they're so intense now. They're so explosive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't believe that we're really acknowledging what's really going on as far as mental healthiness and what does that mean to you, Simone? What does that mean? What does that look like? What does
Well,
a
if anybody knows me, I'm a doer. I'm a doer. I don't want to sit and constantly keep talking about it. We've been talking about it for 4 years now. We know that it's here. We see it. We see the dangers. We know what could happen. We know why. The education has been going around. People are posting. People have Instagram page. People are aware. I think we've reached the awareness phase. Now we need to call our local politicians and our leaders who can make policies and put in place, but also look at the policies that are in place. There is a mental health policy that exists. The education, they removed every restraint that was once present. Common Core is no longer a requirement. All of that stuff is no longer a requirement. So schools have the freedom now, or school districts, I should say, collectively have the freedom to collaborate with parents to determine what type of school, what type of curriculum, what they would like their community to feed and how to foster their children. The problem is the trauma between the parent and the staff. Parents, it's so, I'm so like crazy being in the spaces. Like, I know you're a parent and we talk about the things with your kids, and I go to work and I hear educators, and it's just so hard because everybody wants the same thing, but don't want to put their feelings aside and just focus on, okay, how can we work together for what the kids need? Because parents have trauma about schools. They have their own stories. People belittled me, condescended me, whatever.
absolutely, absolutely. We spoke about that too.
Right. So when they come in, they're ready to fight fire for their baby because they already
Absolutely.
know that you could do their baby wrong, right? And then you got the educator on the other side who has these stereotypes, or maybe has an experience of a parent that cursed them out, that wasn't present, that didn't do anything when they were fire and trying their best, and lost their hope, and now they're just stereotyping this parent doesn't even
Blanket, it's a blanket. It's a blanket. Every parent, they're treating the same exact way.
and
It's a blanket.
right. And honestly, what the real is, both parties don't know what to do. And that's the bottom line. They don't, the teachers don't know what to do, so they're blaming the parents. The parents don't know what to do, they blame the teachers. They don't want with the degrees. So I come in as a middle person, and I've been saying, and I've been advocating, and I also am trying to also been speaking with leaders, because we have to create spaces, for structured spaces for parents and educators to communicate about goals that they want to see, and just to get to know each other. Because the fact of the matter is, the relationship between a teacher and a student is a very intimate relationship, whether people want to believe it or not. Some of these policies don't make sense because the kids need a hug sometimes. So you can't tell me that I'm not going to hug this child. And I've had people tell me that at work, you're going to lose your job. You're like, no, I think this parent would appreciate that their child was hurting and I hugged them because they weren't present to do that. And so you have these, but if you don't have a relationship with the parent, they might feel some type of way, right? And I always seek to have a relationship with the parent early on. I'm like, tell me about your baby. What do you love about them? What drives you crazy? What are they good at? What they're not good at? What do you want to see them grow in this year? This is my goal. This is what I'm good at. This is what I can help with. I would love to support you in this way. But no, usually the first call a parent get is negative. Your child didn't do this. Your child homework missing, this, that, and the third. And that's where the wall comes up. So that's I could go on for days and days, but there's probably, I wouldn't say that, oh, schools, people have to step up. I've been in places where I see adults choose not to do their jobs. I've seen people put children in harm's way, and it has disgusted me because
Yes.
adults think that their children are safe when they're at work, or they think that they're leaving.
Absolutely. 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 I had a young man tell me the other day that he had to walk out of class because his teacher was on the phone all day talking to his mans. And he was like, yo, I didn't come here for this.
But because he's a kid, right? Now it's the
But
kid.
because he's a kid, and he's expressing, he's being defiant.
Right. And so now we go back to that original statement about voices, right?
Yes,
This teacher is not doing their job, and I'm appropriately advocating. I may not say it in the nicest way, but I'm appropriately advocating, and my voice got shut up again.
yes, yes. And this is what happens. I mean, we could go on and on and on about stories. You know, we can go on and on and on about stories. I've had stories where a young man came to me, and this was, we could go on and on and on about stories. I've had a young man that came to me and told me that, you know, I ran into my principal in the hallway and I asked him what's up, and he sent me back to class. And that was, he could have used that opportunity to get to know me, and I could have gotten to know him. He didn't know what headspace I was in, you know. And it's stories like that. It's just like you saying, I'm coming to you, at least engage, at least you the principal.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So I guess that was a deterrent. You understand? I mean, I met a young man outside of a high school, and his face just looked like, I don't even know what to describe it. And I went up to him and I said, you know, it's so early in the morning. What's up? Why are you looking like that?
Yeah.
You know? And he told me that a couple of his friends had gotten into a brawl, and most of his friends had gotten suspended. And one of his friends got beat up really bad. And he he was like, yo, the school didn't even call. They called when he got suspended, but they didn't call to ask his mother how he was doing or nothing. And then he made me listen. And because she assumed that I was a representative of the school, I got blasted. Like, y'all don't have no interest in me. Y'all just, you know, y'all just belittling me, and y'all think that I don't need help. Y'all didn't call me not once and
Mm-hmm.
try to intercede here. Y'all didn't, no referrals, no nothing. Y'all just prejudged me. And what about if I'm struggling? What if, you know, and I took that back into that school because that's a message. And
Mm-hmm.
of course they covered up and said, you know, we make, before a child is suspended, we make the phone calls and this is the protocol. And I said, well, what was discussed in that conversation?
Right. Right.
I said, so what? So what? So what? Let's call this kid the bad kid, quote unquote, right? So what? He doesn't deserve to have resources too. He doesn't deserve, so you know, the 90, and this is my thing with every situation. Everywhere I go, people are so focused on the 2%. But what happened to the 98?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's another problem. That's another issue in of itself. But that's been historical. That's
Right. But this is the reason why we are as a community the way that we are. And this is what brings our trauma. And this is what brings the stigmas. And this is why people don't reach out when they need to reach out, because of this is what's going, they can, we swept under the mat, you know, they swept under the mat. They feel so neglected. So why should I go back and re-traumatize myself? And sometimes they do give that second and third chance, and it's still the slap in the face when they say, okay, I didn't get the help I needed when the kid was in elementary school. Let me try in junior high school, or let me try in high school. And it's a repetition cycle, you know, like, wow. So this is the way it is. And the message that communicates to the kids is, this is what it is. There's nothing better. So I see that kids are beginning to become hopeless,
yes.
because if this is SSDD, then I just have to accept it for what it is. And, you know, some of us don't know the acronym, same shit, different day. SSDD, let's call it for what it is. You understand what I'm saying? And if they're seeing, damn, this is happening to this one, this is happening down the street, this is happening. It's nothing changed. It happened in elementary, it happens in high school, it's happening in our streets. And as you said, the politicians, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
What's up? Every time, and we have to start showing up. We have to start showing up for ourselves.
But also, I would say before we even hit the politicians up, I would say, let me put these steps in proper order. Every parent should know what their school's curriculum is. They should have communication with their school already, because in the ESSA policy, there's a transparency clause. So it requires the school to be transparent. So anytime a parent asks, to see, come, join, participate something, it should be not a problem. And vice versa. There's this thing where they think that parents don't want to be engaged, right? So parents have to be engaged, but you also have to be engaged within the guidelines of the policies of the school. Now, when you step into school and you don't like the policy, that's where I have to call my parents out, because you signed your kid up for that school. That's your due diligence if you want your child to be that, because some schools focus on social and emotional learning. They have schools for that. They have schools that's focusing on play therapy or whatever. They have schools for that. So before we go and criticize all schools, okay, did we do our proper research to make sure that what we needed was not available, or that what we needed, it was provided in poor, insufficient quality? Because the layers behind it's so deep.
Yeah, you're right. I sat on PTA boards where it's only me and two other people. You understand what I'm saying? And like I expressed was, how can you get mad when you don't see things that you want for your kids if you're not involved? The three of us is doing what we know. If I want apples for my kid, I'm going to get apples because I'm there. If you want bananas and there's no bananas, that's not, I'm there as a responsibility to my kid to make sure that, as you said, that they get what I believe that they need. That's why I'm sitting there. You understand what I'm saying? PTA, parents, teachers. Okay, what I'm listening. Okay, what you saying? Okay, but I need some apples in that mix. You understand what I'm saying? And now they got apples. But how am I supposed to know that your kid got an apple allergy?
Exactly.
If there's nobody there, and this is the type of interaction I have with parents, even outside of the Board of Ed, that they have to become more involved if they have a certain expectation of things. The thing that I ponder about all the time is, that there's a lack of resource, but the community can't get involved because of, as you say, policy now. You understand what I'm saying? They can't go to games. They can't do this. They can't.
They can get involved. They can get involved.
To a certain degree. I can't just,
Why do you feel like you can't? Tell me more about that.
Because if I don't have a child that attends the school, I can't participate in that child's. I can't, that's certain policy. That's something that I know for a fact. I can't just be a retiree and decide that I'm going to go and volunteer at this school, or I'm going to go to a basketball game. Let's say I had nothing to do on a Friday and I heard that, one of these schools is having a basketball game and I just want to walk and go to their basketball game. There's certain policies that restrict certain things because of the safety of the kid. But how does the community?
So I involve the community in the schools that I work at. I do events. actually I'm about to put out a flyer for a call for men to help me with my boys group.
Yeah, okay.
The only policy that's in place is that there is a licensed pedagogue in the room with you, which is understandable because
Right, that's understandable.
right. So it's about the school reaching out to the community and the community reaching back. Like someone like you, I'm gonna be doing, college and career week events. I'm gonna hit you up. I'm gonna hit up.
Right.
See me do. I did the summit this summer. That's
Right.
not normally what we do, but that's what I do and for schools. I bring vendors together. That day I brought entrepreneurs together. They got making, they got some mental health work with this nonprofit outside. So all those connections, I carry them with me. And when I'm planning an event for my kids in the building, they get the same energy. Those are the people I bring in. I do quality work. I'm effective. So when I pitch it to my boss and I say, hey, I think I can do A, B, C, and D, and it's free, I get people to volunteer for free, and the kids come and they like it and it's great. Guess what? They come back. The people that came volunteer, they feel fulfilled, and they come back. And the staff, the kids, they got something out of it. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm hearing these things, what I'm hearing is that there are so many people that are mediocre, that are broken, hurt, that don't want to talk to you guys, or lack the emotional intelligence to communicate with parents and not feel offended, or vice versa, or parents not be offended by us, to be able to collaborate. It makes no sense to me.
At this point, it's not going to work without a collaboration.
Right.
At this point, nothing is going to work without collaboration. Nothing that you attempt, nothing that you try. It has to be a unified collaboration. And that's what people have to understand. They can't just be one bagging, or this is what schools have to understand. They can't do it alone without incorporating the parents, without incorporating the community. And this is what, maybe that, like you said, maybe this is what we need to tear down. Maybe this is what this discussion is, as far as, schools and embracing our children and giving the social emotional, learning, and make that prevalent. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's so important. And another thing,
make it about academics, by the way. Like, again, these guidelines were lifted, and you guys as a community, parent, school, district can come together. It's called a community education plan. Every school have one. And every parent has a right to see it and have a voice to it. But you have to be involved, not just when things aren't going right, but also find out how they get things done, because we move things much faster when parents.
All right. So now that we're talking about kids, and I didn't want to make it only about kids, but let's talk about the kids and, and parents. I hear a lot of people say this generation is lost. And people really do feel hopeless. And I don't think that that's fair. I really don't think that you write off everybody. And that's what's being heard. That's how the kids feel. The kids feel like it doesn't matter anyway.
Yes, that's how they feel. And that's what people are saying, and it hurts because they hear us saying that. And it adds to it. And I think people are tired. I even had to take a moment and be like, yo, you're exhausted. Like, even in a new space, and I have all the things I need to thrive, I still feel exhausted, and it's only October, right? I had to take a mental, okay, I need to do things in smaller bits. I don't have the capacity at this time to take on everything. I'm gonna be a little slower at responding to people. I'm gonna be a little bit slower over here. And I forgive myself for that and give myself grace, because I'm starting to recognize, after 3 years of having mental breakdowns, that I get exhausted and burn out. And when I keep pushing, I break down. So let me not push and give myself grace. I'm going to get through it. And I think a lot of people are not knowing how to do it. You know what it is too, Miss Heidi? The biggest thing is we want adults right now to teach kids something that we never got. And that's the main thing that I'm preaching out.
That's what we were talking about earlier. How can adults teach something that they know nothing about? How can, I know many adults that don't appropriately know how to describe what they feel. You understand what I'm saying? Far less for identify what's the adjective that's connected to this thing. You understand what I'm saying? I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm this, that, and the other. Everything conveys in mad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm mad, I'm angry, that's it. But like we say to, like you and I would say to a 3-year-old, that's not how you're feeling, you know? Tell me how, describe how you feeling. And then as we peel through, then we can say, well, you're not actually angry, you're disappointed. You're not actually this, and and give them an example of what it is that they're trying to say and let them understand, oh, this isn't what I was feeling. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I was lashing out in anger, but that's not an appropriate way, and how to redirect some of those emotions. But I can't do that if I didn't even have that understanding.
Right.
And I
Exactly.
think that this is what goes on in our communities a lot. And this is what we see.
Mm-hmm.
I had brought in migrants and immigrants into it because they factor in a lot in our Black communities now, especially throughout New York City. And, piggybacking on a lot of those cultural things, everybody's picking up from one another's culture. And it's a discombobulated set of trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's familiar, it's trauma in any way. So if I'm speaking to a Hispanic person, or I'm speaking to a person from the Caribbean, we all have a commonality of trauma. So, sometimes you hear the cliche, we're more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
But that, even now, if you bring it down, because we all went through similar traumas.
Mm-hmm. But we don't talk about it, so we don't know. So we walking around acting like we're different, and we're really
And
similar.
we're not. Again, SSDD.
All right, Miss Heidi. I'll make one comment about it since I have to go, and you brought it up twice. So I know you want me to say something. This is how I feel. I'm gonna give a purely social work response. Well, my ultimate social worker response. Nobody else, not representing nobody else but me.
I'm listening.
I understand the tension. And it goes back to how the children feel. This is how us adults feel. This is why we project that energy to the children, right? We feel forgotten about, pushed to the side. It's not that what other people are going through is not valid. It's more of we're hurting. We've been hurting. We've been hurting for some time now. And we're seeing that outsiders are getting more support from our own. And we've been here hurting. I've been here, Mom. I've been here this whole time. And you can't see me, but you're helping the neighbor's son or your athletes because they're good at football, and I like to play video games or whatever. Like
I
all
hear you.
the little kid in us, right? Because we're shouting, especially us. America has already done so much. So the acting out is I'm tired. When is it going to change? It's the cry of it needs to change now. That's why I respect the young people, because they have way more confidence than we had,
Yes.
because they're challenging adults on very real things. And that's
Yes.
why it's
Yes.
scary.
Yes.
Like they're being real and you
They're
have
being real.
that. But you want to use, I'm an adult, be quiet, say what I do. That don't work no more. That's not enough.
No.
Have the
And
internet.
it's not going to change the system of things. At this point, we have to learn to listen. If we really expect change, We
Mhm.
have to learn. Nothing's the same. Nothing's like it was 50 years ago.
Yeah. Hmm.
So if we don't listen to the new generation, we're going to stay stuck. They're going to evolve. And if their future is are in control of our future,
Hmm.
then we better start bridging this gap now.
Hmm.
And we have to accept that change is the only way that things are going to move in a more positive direction. We have to accept that. We have to accept it and we have to hear it. And there's no other way. One of the things that you touched on that I want to, it's accountability.
Hmm.
And it's hard for some of us adults to swallow that pill. This is why mental health is such an important conversation, and curating spaces where we can have open conversation about certain things that have affected me, or just to get different aspects and ideologies.
Hmm.
It will help us to heal. It will help us to open our minds and expand in our way of thinking. It'll help us to rebuild America into a positive place, and so that we can go forward. We can't continue to be comfortable in poverty. It's not helping us. And as you said, these kids don't want to be broke anymore. These kids, like, that was good enough for you. Uh-uh. You know, that's cute. I see what you did.
Can I leave you with one last deep thought as to why they come that way? Because I really put myself in like their shoes. You gotta imagine. I said this to someone the other day. When
Yes,
when we were younger, even like my generation, we started with tech, but it's still nothing like how it is now.
right.
Your parent was your primary source of knowledge, and along with the other adults around you, right? And then your peers would come together with their knowledge from the adults around them, and y'all would talk about it, and that's how things would get mixed and matched, right? So there was a reliance on authority and adult, right? But now, because media and technology gives them so much access to information, they don't need to come to you as a source of information. So if we're not real and honest, they're going to fact check you, come back around, and now you're stuck because you told a little, white lie that you would normally tell a little kid that flew back in the day. But now it can't fly because they fact checked you on their little tablet that you gave them to keep them quiet so you could focus on yourself, and seeing that what you said wasn't valid, or seeing another challenge perspective. Now, if you have a relationship and you have that secure relationship with your kid and it's a communication, then it's more of like a diverse thing. It's more of like we're a dialogue and we're helping each other process, and now they respect you because you helped them figure out something for them, and even sprinkled what you really wanted to instill in them, that seed you wanted to plant. But naturally adults don't really want to do all that work because kids are the most marginalized group. They're the ones that we like them, but they're more of an accessory to an adult, but they're a real person trying to figure out who they are. And we keep trying to tell them who they are, and that's not working for them. They want to figure it out. They just want your help to help them figure it out.
I want to say two things in regards to that. First thing is, a lot of adults forget that they were kids too, and they forgot what that meant and the mistakes that they made to get to the place where they're at as an adult. I mean, oftentimes I have to tell parents, so you were never 12? So you were perfect, you grew up, you from 12 to 50, you the same person, like, how did that work out for you? And another thing I have to say is, again, I don't understand it. and I didn't accept it. See, sometimes adults become adults and they're so caught up in surviving that they didn't even realize that so much time elapsed and so many things, so this is why we're having this conversation, Simone. This is one of many that you and I are going to talk about, and maybe in repetition, coming on Trendsetters and me coming on your podcast, we'll be able to.
Yeah, definitely got to hear the trauma. I want to have some parents coming on at the top of the year, so I got to have you on. And I would like, to extend to your community, Miss Heidi, if you start pulling together a list of 5 parents or
Definitely.
for them, and I'll do a series of a couple to help them practice some of those skills. We'll role play. That's really the work I'm diving to do next year with the Rhyme.
Okay.
Really giving the parents that support, that how, and educators, because everyone is asking for the how. And
Yes.
out is the how. So what the politicians need to come and fund us, coaches, all of these organizations.
This is exactly, well, you and I really have been working and talking about collaborating on a lot of different things. So, you'll be hearing a lot from us, and, we're out here, you guys, we're out here really trying to make a difference and trying to help our community heal. And that's our main focus. Our main focus right now is, encouraging the healing process, and by whatever means necessary. We're doing the teachers, we're doing the first responders is definitely necessary. Simone and I have talked about things that I'm working on in regards to having a training for first responding to identify mental health crisis, people in mental health crisis, instead of, in lieu of everything that's been going on with first responding, misappropriating, handling people that are in mental health crises. So you'll be hearing from us, you guys, and we're going to keep this conversation going. Thank you so much, Simone. I greatly appreciate you coming on today. And it's not the first that you're going to hear. And like I said, we're going to piggyback off on one another. You support Trendsetters and Gateways, and you have our support 100%. Well, we're going to wrap it up, you guys, because we can go on forever. This is how we do all the time. But it won't be the first time. And if you have any conversations that you want Simone and I to talk about, please hit me up. You know where to find me, Trendsetters Talk. This video is going to be posted on YouTube. So please like and share. And Simone, give them where they can find you again, please.
Yep, you can follow me on Instagram at RYM_INC, or you could shoot me an email at resilientyoungminds@gmail.com.
Thanks again. And I'll speak to you soon. Take care, you guys. Thanks, Trendsetters.